welcome to the Dr. Gerry Fishkin Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gerry Fishkin. There is a condition that is almost universal, almost invisible, and almost never diagnosed correctly. It's not depression. It's not anxiety. It's not trauma. Those are symptoms. The condition is this: a person who does not believe their life is worth protecting, not intellectually, not consciously, but operationally. They do not act as if their life matters. And when that is missing, everything begins to collapse. I want to talk about the nature of today's show, which is the misunderstanding and the understanding of self-love. This is where we typically get it wrong. We use the phrase self-love, and the moment we say it, people disengage. It sounds soft. It sounds indulgent. It sounds like narcissism, so it gets dismissed before it is ever understood. Self-love is not narcissism. In fact, it's the polar opposite. Clinically, what I see over and over again in my daily private practice is not an excess of self-love. In fact, it is the near total absence of it. It's just not there. It never was there, and the loss of it is not even recognized. People don't walk into my office and say, "Doc, I don't love myself." They say, "I'm overwhelmed." They say, "I feel stuck." They say, "I don't know why I stay in situations that aren't good for me, like a crap marriage, having a drunk or drug-addicted partner, or a spouse that has no time for you since it's all spent elsewhere, like on the kids or at work or both." But underneath all of that is a much simpler truth. They are not treating their life as something that has value, that is cherished, should be protected, or even liked. None of it. So let's define it clearly. Self-love is not a feeling. It's not admiration. It is not confidence. Self-love, by my definition, is the disciplined recognition that your life has value and must be treated accordingly. Not glorified, not inflated, but respected and protected, not only from the outside, but more importantly, from within. So what does the absence of self-love look like? You can see the absence of self-love immediately if you stop listening to what people say and start observing what they do. Look at how people use their time. They give it away freely. They overcommit. They say yes when they really mean no. They stay in conversations long after they should have left. If you ask them why, they'll not say their time does not matter, but that is exactly how they behave. Look at how they allow themselves to be treated. They remain in crap relationships where respect is inconsistent, where affection is conditional, and where boundaries are ignored. When asked why they stay, the answer is almost always, it's complicated. Folks, it's rarely complicated. It's permission. They are permitting what they would never permit if they believed their life had value or even believed in themselves. Then there is the internal dialogue. If another person spoke to them the way they speak to themselves, they would leave immediately. Yet internally, the tone is often harsh, critical, and relentless. This is not accountability. It is toxic, unrelenting, negative self-talk that I have written about in my book, The Science of Shame. It's chronic. It's unrelenting psychological hostility directed at the self. That's what self-talk is. It's toxic and negative. It's not thinking. It's toxic and negative self-talk directed primarily and entirely at your sense of self. Over time, that hostility becomes structural. It shapes decisions, relationships, and identity. Because if you don't believe your life is worth protecting, you will not protect it. You'll give it away, often in exchange for approval, comfort, or avoidance. So there are consequences to this loss of self-love. What are they? When self-love is absent, the consequences are highly predictable. First, there's chronic anxiety. If your life does not feel secure, then everything feels like a threat. Conversations, opinions, and the possibility of rejection all become highly destabilizing. It's kind of like your emotional and psychological system is based on quicksand. Second, there's identity instability. Without an internal anchor, people begin to shape themselves around the expectations or what they believe are the expectations of others. They become adaptive rather than authentic. Like a chameleon, they adapt or play to the expectations of others. This portrays a complete lack of integrity or self-worth. Third, there is burnout, not simply because of doing too much, but because of giving without regulation. The question is rarely, should I? It is almost always, am I needed? Finally, there is a collapse of meaning. Without self-love, life is not experienced as something to steward. It becomes something to survive, to exist. And survival and pure existence by itself is not meaning and purpose. And without meaning and purpose, life is shallow and not about living fully, but rather just surviving. Does that resonate? So why does this happen? This doesn't happen randomly. It's learned. In many early environments, love is conditional. Approval must be earned. Emotional needs are minimized. This is the bonding process that's broken, where a child bonds or tries to bond to a parent, but the parent is absolutely transactional. The child adapts by concluding that their value is tied to their performance. Culturally, we reinforce this pattern. We reward overwork, self-sacrifice, and external validation. But we rarely teach that a person's life has inherent value independent of output. And that's how this whole program began. Thinking in my office, kids are not taught to love themselves in school, K through 12, college. It doesn't matter. They're not taught to love and protect themselves. So even in moral and religious frameworks, self-love is often assumed but not explicitly defined. For example, the Catechism of the Catholic Church speaks of loving your neighbor as yourself. The assumption is that a baseline of self-regard or self-love exists. But what if it doesn't? What actually does self-love look like? Okay, self-love is not indulgence, and it's not a performance. It's behavioral. It begins with boundaries. Everything begins with boundaries in my book. Saying no without unnecessary justification, not as an act of defiance, but really as an act of respect for one's own time and their energy. It includes energy regulation, not spending oneself into exhaustion to prove their worth, but recognizing that energy is finite and must be allocated intentionally. That is, when we spend our time, we should have intention. Never a shotgun approach. I've never believed that because it doesn't work. It requires a shift in internal tone, replacing harsh self-criticism with honest, constructive evaluation. The question moves from what's wrong with me to what needs my attention now. It also involves selective investment, choosing deliberately where one's time, attention, and energy go, rather than dispersing them indiscriminately, as I said earlier, like in a shotgun approach. It doesn't work. We have to know where we're spending our energy. Otherwise, we'll burn out. We'll lose it. So, what is the turning point, and what does a turning point look like? The critical shift is this: self love is not something you wait to feel, it's something you practice before you believe it. What we sometimes call acting as if. You begin by making decisions that reflect your value, not somebody else's. Even if that value is not yet fully felt, express it. Don't worry. You say no without apology. You don't need to apologize for saying no. You leave situations that are misaligned. You stop over explaining your boundaries. You stop negotiating your time and your energy as if they're disposable. And most important, stay away from toxic, manipulative, and emotionally malignant situations, and especially people. At first, this might feel uncomfortable. It may feel unfamiliar, even incorrect. But that discomfort is not a signal to stop. No, it's a signal that an old pattern is being disrupted. That's what you're feeling when you start this process of change, because it's really all okay. You created it in the first place. Over time, behavior leads and belief follows. The mind aligns with repeated action. So, in closing, if there is one idea to take from this, it's this: the absence of self love is not a personality trait, it's a structural deficit, and it can be corrected. Not through affirmation, positive thinking, but through alignment. Alignment. That is, keeping it aligned with who you really are. Affirmations and positive thinking and all of that, they don't work. But staying aligned to your values, who you are, how you want to see yourself, that's what works. You do not need to become someone new. You need to begin treating your life as something that really already matters, because it does. And the moment you begin acting accordingly, everything changes. So, this is not self help. This is about self respect. If today's message spoke to you, email me your breakthroughs to Dr. Gerry at drgerryfishkin.com. I just might read them on air. And yes, I'll send you one of my beautiful Dr. Gerry Fishkin Show mugs. You can follow me on social media, and especially at my new YouTube channel, Dr. Gerry Fishkin. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your family, friends, or anyone you know who seems lost, in pain, and devoid of self-love. I'd love to hear your stories. And by the way, if you really want a good laugh and learn something new about people and possibly yourself, please visit my podcast on the Trump derangement syndrome. I guarantee you, if you don't get a chuckle, I'll return the cost of admission. Until next time, I'm Dr. Gerry Fishkin, wishing you success in finding the one and the only thing in your life that is as important as oxygen. And that one thing is your sense of self and the meaning and purpose in your life, purposefully guided with intention. Always remember to keep searching, keep growing, and keep saying yes to your life. This, it's all we have.